David Meltzer, Joe Hendry, Will Ospreay, EC3, Evil Uno, Culcabana, Botchamania. Luchasaurus, Chelsea Green, Nick, Aldous, Chris Van Vliet, Tama, Tonga, Sam, Roberts, Mr. Go-Go. WrestleTwats, Tweddell, Bobby Fish, Gangrel, Larson and his friendo Steve, and Commander Stephanie, Cultaholic Stevenson, Very Evil Danhausen, Lita Denny's Gail Kim, Smack My Arse, it's him. Straight to hell with Tweddell. Take your wrestling pet peeve and give it the big heave. Straight to hell with Tweddell. There's been lots of guests who sent down the best thing.
In the dark, dark tomb, there was a dark, dark street. And in the dark, dark street, there was a dark, dark office. In the dark, dark office, there were some dark, dark stairs. And down the dark, dark stairs, there was a dark, dark room. And in the dark, dark room was where the worst wrestling tropes go to die.
Hello, I'm Ross Tweddell, and in the history of Straight to Hell, there have been 51 episodes where professional wrestlers, famous professional wrestling personalities, famous professional wrestling fans, and the knobheads who work here at Cultaholic Wrestling have sent their 5 biggest pet peeves about the world of professional wrestling straight to hell. And since it wouldn't be Christmas without a wanky compilation, let's have a look now at the 10 most outrageous things sent straight to hell in the history of Straight to Hell. Hell, straight to hell. And we're kicking things off with Will Ospreay. And when you think of a Will Ospreay match, you think of 3 things, don't you? 3 things, don't you? You think of kicks, you think of flips, and you think of chance of fight forever. Therefore, I think it's completely outrageous that William Ospreay himself would even consider the chance of fight forever to be something worthy of being sent straight to hell. Therefore, I'm putting it number 10 on this countdown of the most outrageous things sent straight to hell. Will Ospreay sending the chance of fight forever, a chant that happens in 95% of his matches, for goodness sake. That is outrageous, so it's on the thing now. So we're 3 for 3, let's try and make it 4 for 4. Will, your 4th offering, please.
Fight forever.
The chant again?
Yeah, the chant, fight forever.
Would you like to have an empty arena match?
Only because I know, like, oh, we're getting to the ending stage of this match. Fight forever. No, I'm tired. No, I want this to end. I'm done. No.
Have you ever got to that stage before where you've heard fight forever and thought, oh, bollocks, I've got to go another 5 minutes or something?
Yeah.
Does it kill you every time? Yeah. Can you not stop yourself from doing it?
Do you know what I hate more? When, like, I really don't enjoy a match and I won't ever put it out, and then everyone goes, we want the rematch, and they give them the rematch, and I'm just like, no! Like, the fans really enjoyed it, but as me as a person, I got beaten up to the point where I was like, oh God, please don't ever do this again. Like, oh, no. And then they give them the rematch, I'm like, no!
That must be a difficult spot to be in. Because, like, you can't just say no and upset everybody, because everyone would be pissed off at you.
Well, I could.
Well, yeah.
It's not going to affect me either way, but it's... I just get it. I do get it. I do get it because the promoter is just like, oh, I can make money out of this and whatever, and like he can make money. I'm just like, yeah, no, but I'm in pain and he hurt me. No, like, and then when they say fight forever, I was like, no, I'm dying here. The lights make this ring twice as hot. Has anyone seen how blown you ever get from doing a handspring ropes? That is the most tiresome thing in the world. There's a reason I do it and then take like a minute
to compose yourself.
Fight forever. No, I'm tired. I'm going.
Have you ever done that? Just turn around to the crowd and said, no, this is it, goodbye, see you later.
No, because I want to pretend I'm a nice person.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm looking at this from a different perspective for you again. It's one of those chants that organically started quite nicely with, I think it was Sami Zayn and Nakamura, that match.
Yeah.
That's where it started.
God, that was so good as well.
And Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
I'm quite sure they heard that and they're thinking about it. It's like, no, we want this to end.
It helped make it the match it was, though, didn't it? So, you know, like, do you think if you took that away, the experience of a match might become a little bit less?
No, because there's one thing that I like better than any chant ever. Any chant you give me, there's one thing I prefer than anything, and that's when the match is so good, the audience have no idea what to say, so they just stand and clap and just make noise. That's better than any chant ever.
Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate had a great one of those last year.
Like, do you know what I mean? That's another thing where they just been themselves. Yeah. That whole match was themselves.
I mean, you've put a very good case forward once again. I don't have to say no to you. You could do anything here today, not just say yes. So yeah,
Fight forever. I've just broke the buzzer.
Oh my God.
Production values.
I'm going to hell.
And next up we have Tucky, who will be coming to you in the world of professional wrestling as Levi Cooper in the era 2022. He gave us an outrageous account of the trip home from Saudi Arabia for the WWE superstars. And it's such a good account because he was actually there. And yes, it was as outrageous as you think it actually was. Over to Levi now.
What's your third offering, please, Levi?
Oh, my third offering is traveling back from Saudi Arabia. It needs to go straight to hell.
Oh, bloody hell. Take me inside this trip, because we've read many different things. You were there. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think a lot of what was read is fairly accurate. You know, I don't know for sure from what I heard, and I heard this from a cameraman who obviously is wearing a headset and that can hear all the chatter over the headset, that the main man told them to cut the feed to the Saudis.
Ooh.
That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what the rumor that I heard. And I also read that on the internet a couple of times as well. So like I said, I don't have any confirmation on that, but that's sort of the reason, right? And I heard it was based around money. And that we hadn't been paid or something along those lines. And there was some kind of a disagreement. And so the feed for that particular show was cut to Saudi or however it worked. Like I said, this is just the speculation that I heard, but I did hear it in Saudi Arabia from somebody on a camera. So, you know, it is hearsay, but that's like the best I can do. So at least the best I could figure out in my mind is that we sort of got into a, you know, billionaire dick measuring contest, right? A little bit of a pissing match, you know, and kind of we're political pawns a little, if you will, like, and because we were supposed to fly straight back to SmackDown, right? And so, you know, I think my wife was very upset, of course. In my mind at the time, you know, I was thinking that, like, well, if this situation is sort of what we think it is, like, they're not going to keep us for long enough to make it an international thing, right? Like, I don't think they're stupid enough to be like, hey, we really want to catch some heat over this, you know what I mean? In the large scale is like, but if we can maybe inconvenience them for inconveniencing us and make their guys miss SmackDown, then we'll inconvenience them, right? So we left from the show and we go to, you know, the airport. And so where we're flying out of is not the main terminal. It's called executive arrivals, right? And it's basically just like a private hangar for whatever big groups and you know, people that are on invitation from the government, essentially, is who gets to use executive arrivals. So we get to that executive arrivals building. We're the only ones in there at the time. You know, it's probably midnight or so, something. Like I said, we left straight after the show. We just got on the bus, drive to the airport. So we're all tired and hungry too, right? Because like we ate before the show, but catering got put away at like 6:30 or something. So, and the people at the airport, they didn't know because they had put out some snacks for us and stuff too. So like the confusion at the building was crazy because nobody can get any information what's happening. So we sit there for like 4 hours probably in executive arrivals. Finally, they let us get on the airplane, right? So we're all, yes. Finally getting on the airplane. We get on the airplane. We're on the airplane for 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, something like that. And we can't take off for whatever reason, right? The pilot's basically like, we can't get our completed paperwork, right? However the air traffic stuff works or whatever, like the plane's good, right? Everything, the crew's good. We're all good here with Atlas Air. But the issue is we can't get clearance from the airport, right? Or whatever. Like they're not allowing us to leave. So we end up getting back off the plane. We sit in executive arrivals for like another 2.5 hours before finally the buses come back. But at this point, the sun's up. It's, you know, I don't know what time, but it's probably 8 or 9 in the morning. And in the midst of all this, actually, I forgot, a group of like 15 or 20 people, they booked them a separate charter flight to try to get them to SmackDown. I can't remember who all was on this plane, but, you know, suffice to say, like people who were most needed for SmackDown, right? So whatever. And that plane ultimately didn't make it either, but they flew in like a smaller, whatever, G5 back to America to try to get to SmackDown because they knew we weren't going to make it in time, and they still didn't make it. And then we go to another hotel in Riyadh and we stay there for, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 hours, something like that. Like basically just book rooms for everybody for, so we can get some sleep and whatnot. And then we head back to the airport the next evening. And everything when we got back was pretty smooth, except I remember like we get there, we get through executive arrivals, and like I said, the time before we walked straight onto the airplane. And, the other times we've been there, we get straight on the airplane from executive arrivals. But I guess because we stayed for a whole day, like, I don't know if they moved the plane to mess with us or if they moved it because they had to or whatever. But in that time frame, our plane got moved to the main terminal, but nobody knew this. So when we get through executive arrivals, instead of getting on the plane, we get on trams, like people movers, like a bus, basically. And so there's probably 3 of them, and we take off, we're going. And, after a couple minutes, we're like in the middle of the desert now because we're far from, we don't know this, but we're probably 1.5 miles from our plane. So we end up on these people movers for like 20 minutes before we get to the plane. And 5 or 10 minutes in, like I said, all of us, we've all been through this 24-hour ordeal. And now we're all on these buses. Like it's dark everywhere. You can see like executive arrivals back in the main airport over there, but around us is nothing. And we're all just like, it's feel a little sketchy to you, man. It feels a little sketchy to us. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Where are we going? Where are they taking us? And ultimately we get back on the plane and we end up flying home and land in JFK. And then everybody flies home to their respective wherever because we didn't make SmackDown. It was an ordeal. It was enough to make me never want to go back to Saudi Arabia. And I like Saudi Arabia too. I stayed in Saudi Arabia 2 weeks. The first time we went over, I worked the tryout for WWE. I had a great time in Jeddah. I loved it. Got to wrestle in the, greatest Royal Rumble, made my debut, but that one time back there made me not want to go back.
And then that entire time, the only correspondence you heard as to why you weren't taken off was from that pilot. You didn't hear anything else the entire time in the lounge and back at the hotel and stuff.
We heard rumors, but they're doing their best, I think, to try to keep that under wraps, right? Or like whatever the truth is, they don't want it to become a thing, right? And it'd be like, well, that's a big story, right? If that's the truth, if it ultimately becomes that, is like, and like I said, I don't know. That's just our speculation as to what had happened. But, if there's truthfully confirmation and somebody could get confirmation about that's the way it went down, yeah, that becomes a big story, right? Like that's not, that's a big deal. And at the time, nobody knows what actually happened and still don't. And I don't think anybody will know the truth. That's kind of what makes sense, because I think maybe Atlas put out that there was some airline issue or something like that, or I'm not positive, but from what I heard, there was no issue with the crew or with the airplane. It was the Saudis that were not letting us leave.
And did the payday maybe go up after this trip for people? Because I saw a lot of people saying they were never going back. And then I think the next one, there was a few people who said they weren't going back who did go back. You know what I mean?
I sure, for the people at the top of the card, probably not for me. I was working on my downside because, whatever. So I don't know that I even saw any extra money for that trip, really.
Really?
I got paid for that trip, you know what I mean? But it's the way the contract works is like, you got to earn back all of your money for the year before you start getting paid on top of it.
Oh, right.
And so I think at the time, like I was still in my, what they call the bucket. I was in my downside. So it just meant like I'd been paid out up to that point of the year. I'd been paid out more than I'd actually worked. And so that would just kind of work against my negative, total, if you will, balance.
And what is the general sort of feeling like backstage towards those shows? Because obviously it's a big sort of moral dilemma for many people to whether to support the move and going over there and watch the shows and whatnot for fans. Is that mirrored backstage, or is everyone on board with the trip and the concept and all that kind of stuff?
It's I think there's a large gamut of people there. There's a large, spectrum along the political spectrum, right? There's a big range, I guess you'd say. so yeah, I mean, I think there's some people who are just like, hey, I wrestle, I'm here to wrestle, and I don't really give two shits to where it is. I'm up for it. Let's do it, and then all the way on the side of like, I can't support this government, and so I'm not going. And kind of anywhere in between there, I would say that people, yeah, I don't think there's like this general attitude of like, oh, we shouldn't be here and like da da da. No, it's once you're there and you're in it. You're just like, you're just doing your job and you're wrestling, and I mean, at least for me, I know like when I'm getting ready to wrestle, or like I'm just considering like the audience and how I want that kind of relationship to happen in this performance. So, the kind of extraneous noise, at least in terms of performance time, I don't think you couldn't perform well and have kind of those things on your mind, right? You sort of have to like make the decision once you're there and you're going to do it, then like, it's very important to have a high level of presence. Otherwise, your performance is going to really suffer because of it.
And after the entire airport incident and flight back, when everyone was back in the same place at the same time again, management, superstars, everybody, what was that like? Was there any sort of like meeting just to go, sorry about that, here's what was going, like, not here's what was going on because we don't know, but like a bit of an apology, a bit like a, just sorry for putting you through that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, there was. That was, I want to say that happened at Raw, and I was on SmackDown at the time, so I wasn't a part of that. I know that there was a bit of a conversation like that Vince specifically talked to, a group of talent at Raw. Like I said, I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly, what was said, but yes, it was addressed to some extent as a group.
Right. There we go. I think that's all bases covered on that one. The flight homes from Saudi Arabia, straight to hell.
And now, from the ridiculous to the ridiculous we go, as Evil Uno actively wants the people he's facing inside the squared circle to have a better chance of beating his arse. His lovely, long eyelashes arse. Look at his eyelashes, man. They're outstanding. Some might even say outrageous.
So what's your third offering, please, Evil Uno?
So this is another inside baseball one, but like this just teaches me that what you're gonna do. If you're my opponent, don't yell out the move you're about to attempt on me. Why would you yell out Brainbuster and then try to apply it afterwards? You've now told me exactly what I'm gonna try and block. Not very smart, professional wrestlers. Don't yell out the move you're gonna do. It's quite silly.
I'm going to try and ask for names here, but I don't know if I'll get them. Who are the main offenders that you see anywhere just shouting moves before they do them?
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I will say this. The one person that does it so El Generico used to do this all the time. He'd yell out Brainbuster, and then the great thing about how he did it is that I would say it would get reversed sometimes, but then a lot of the times he would actually hit it. So you weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. One person that I think has done it tremendously is Lycos from the UK, who calls out the move, and at a 99% chance he's not going to hit it. And that's kind of like the whole deal, is that he makes it so blatantly apparent he's not going to do that it becomes a comedic moment. But even that is kind of making fun of the fact that it's a silly thing. The fact that it's comedic is because it's already ingrained as something that is stupid. So actual offenders out there, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to say anything bad, and I'm sure I've definitely done it before too. So like the claim can be done against me for sure. You can go back in my history and probably find 20 times I've done it at the very least. But if you're a new wrestler out there, or even if you're a professional wrestler on television, people are going to reverse your move. Don't yell it out. Keep it a surprise.
I'm going to try and peel back the curtain ever so slightly here.
Yes.
Because it amazes me, especially with tag team wrestling, when you see certain sequences that happen during the matches and they just go on and on and on, and all the moving parts have to be in the right place at the right time. How much are matches like just down to short-term memory, and how much is sort of on the fly, or does it just depend on who's in the ring with you at that certain time?
I think it all depends on the performer. I think it's like there are comedians who are just very funny because they've structured exactly a thing that is funny. They know how to get the laugh, and they've structured the jokes so that it gets the laugh. There are also comedians that are mainly funny because they'll play off something that they didn't know, And what makes them funny is that they're smart enough to take that exact point and moment and turn it into a funny thing. You know, that people who are quick-witted or they're sometimes just weird, you know, like play off something and make it weird. So professional wrestling is kind of the same way. Every person has a different approach to it. I like a good middle ground. When I think of professional wrestling, there's always going to be these moments that I think can be manufactured that can get these reactions. But then I also believe you don't do nothing but those moments. You want to have a ton of space to breathe, because there are going to be moments that you can organically make, especially when you have a crowd. It's a lot harder when there is no crowd to try and make a moment because there's no direct feedback from the crowd. But now that we are going back to live crowds, now that the independents are reopening, having what essentially is improv for a big portion of professional wrestling makes it feel more real, teaches people that anything could happen at any point, at any moment, and also teaches them that they can kind of influence the flow of things. You know, if they cheer and they see that the person is actually taking from those cheers and doing things and actually feeding off that energy, then they are more apt to give you energy as well. And you can't always manufacture that, because you can't tell when people are going to cheer. You could think you'll know exactly what they'll do, but you really can't. And the best way to try and figure that out is to not plan anything at all.
Yeah. So there we go. Calling moves straight down.
Gable Steveson is an Olympic gold medalist in the amateur wrestling, and I think it's a very good job he is, because he's called out Paul Heyman, right? And I don't think the head of the table, the tribal chief, yes, I'm just like an Uso, Roman Reigns, nor the Usos themselves will appreciate Gable Steveson for doing that. So they want to hand an arse whooping to Gable Steveson, and Gable Steveson will wrap their body up in knots, right, for doing this on Straight to Hell many months ago. And yes, I do know that Paul Heyman and Gable Steveson are quite tight, but I'm a slut for drama. So let's hear the drama.
What I don't like, another thing, I love Paul Heyman, but he needs some addresses on his suit game. He got to come out with some different colors sometimes. I know he loves the blue, one, but I think he needs to come out with some different types of suits. Maybe some more fitted, but you know, he is an older guy, and older guys don't really like the fitted clothes, just like the young guys. So maybe Paul Heyman's suits gotta step his game up a little bit. But I love Paul, so it's no diss for him.
So we'll move on now to the second point, which was Paul Heyman's suits. So have you been watching SmackDown recently, where Seth Rollins has been pulling out all these flamboyant suits that I don't understand where you can make such a thing? I don't know if you've seen them, but they're incredible.
No, I haven't seen them, but
God.
I should look them up.
Yeah, you should. And honestly, just send them. Obviously, Paul Heyman will know about them because he's on SmackDown with Seth Rollins at the moment. But just say to Paul, just get on the phone to Seth Rollins' suit guy, and that'll sort out all the issues. I don't know what else to say about Paul Heyman's suits. What color suit would you like to see Paul Heyman in?
My reasonable thing for Paul, like I said, Paul is like one of my favorite guys over there.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see Paul, and Paul's really stuck on like not fitted suits, and so like his pants, his bell bottoms are like really huge for him. And so, like, I don't know how he feels about fitted, or like not really fitted on the top, but fit on the legs that like they're like a little like straight leg instead of like boot cut. I mean, it's personal preference though, but I think Paul needs to step out and be different from the crowd and put on a straight Gucci suit or something, just the limited design just for him, all black Gucci suit with a colored tie. He'll change the game. I mean, he's already changed the game with his suits, and he never takes off his suit, but if he switched it up and put on a Tom Ford suit or a Gucci suit, maybe even a Dior, he's changing his lifestyle right there. He's one up in the suit game and then people like Seth Rollins got to step up their suit game even more.
I don't know if Seth Rollins can. They're incredible. I've never seen patterns and fabrics like it. It's amazing where he's getting it from. But speaking about Paul Heyman, we'll speak about him a bit more. The connection's there with Brock. Are you looking for him to be a manager maybe in the future? Is that something you would aspire to have?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice to be a Paul Heyman guy. I mean, I already kind of claim myself as a Paul Heyman guy because I do it for the Twitter and just let people see it. But seeing Paul, I've known Paul for about 3-4 years now, and he's always been really nice to me and my family and stuff. And him being with Brock was also a nice thing too, and how he went about and did everything for Brock and made Brock a complete legend too. And so, I mean, me and Paul's time is going to come. It just depends on when, but I would love for him to be in my corner every step of the way.
So your relationship with Paul, maybe on screen potentially, would be more like Paul and CM Punk rather than Paul and Brock, with more chatter back and forth, because obviously being two promo guys, that's the way it's got to be, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing. Just like I said, me and Paul, just been knowing each other for some years and always stayed in contact regardless of anything. And so to have him be in the corner and help me gain a bigger me is going to be important. And so, I mean, we'll chatter back and forth. I might throw him on his back a few times, just how it goes.
Right, and so we have certain attires down in hell. We have Paul Heyman suits kind of down in hell, but not maliciously.
The creative process in WWE. Oh, how we love it so, don't we, professional wrestling fans? Yes, we do, don't we? Well, I think the current system that WWE have in place for a large portion of their superstars to get their ideas over to the people that matter is simply outrageous. Matt Raywalt, known formerly, of course, as Aiden English, as part of Rusev Day and the Vaudevillains and stuff like that, he told us just how outrageous the creative process for a large portion of the WWE roster is here in 2021 and years gone by. Just in general, really, yeah.
So we were kind of talking about earlier. For me, and this, I don't know how the creative process works in places like MLW, AEW, Ring of Honor, whatever, Impact. But from my experience in WWE, we're talking about pitching ideas. So I think the creative process in WWE needs an entire overhaul. So right now, especially, like I said, if you're not a top talent and can't get a ton of Vince McMahon FaceTime, it's hard to get an idea through. Most of us who are on the lower end of the card or whatever like that, which makes it guys who aren't like top main event guys are probably 75% of the roster, or those guys kind of in the middle and the lower end. Most of them don't get to deal with the head writer of the show or with Vince McMahon a lot. You have to go through what they call writing assistants. Now, I'm not putting heat or bashing in the writing assistants. They don't hold a lot of sway, and they're very new, and they don't want to ruffle feathers. So like, even if you have the world's greatest pitch, that they'll toss a little bit out in a meeting, and if somebody goes, they're not going to be the ones to fight for it. Let's put it that way. And I understand it, because they're trying to just establish themselves. They just want to keep the show running, kind of things like that. But when you're a talent and you have ideas, and that's your one through way, and you can I remember trying to talk to the head writer and stuff, and you would, but it's kind of like a Vince McMahon thing. It's like, oh, okay, but I got to go write this promo for Roman or whatever, anything like that. So it's hard. It's hard for mid-card talent to get their ideas to the proper level on a regular basis. If you're able to score one of those meetings with Vince, great, but often you're not, and your only outlet is this very entry-level writing assistant. So I don't know what it is, but that process needs to go. There needs to be a more streamlined way of getting ideas across.
What would that be, in your opinion?
Oh God, I don't. It's hard because the immediate thing is talent needs a through line to someone, whether it's the head producer of the show. I know on SmackDown for a long time it was Brian James, Road Dogg, right? Or someone like a Bruce Pritchard now maybe. So and everyone, it's a lot of people that you have their email. It's a pretty standard corporate email and everything like that, but they get hundreds of emails a day. I don't know if there needs to be a particular in the 21st century a talent only portal for creative and stuff like that can get, because I know it's a huge roster, but at the end of the day, I mean, if we're just talking about the main roster, it's 150 people or something like that. It's not the entire company. It's not NXT. We're just talking about Raw and SmackDown. Yeah, and I wish I had a better one, but I feel like somewhere more direct from talent to head creative. And then the writing assistants are still there to help you flush out promos. They can write the basic thing and then take it to you, and you can collaborate on how it's going to go. It's more just technical work as opposed to them having to float creative ideas from talent directly.
Right. And so how does lower to mid-card talent sort of make things happen for themselves? You know what I mean? Is it just maybe through social media, then someone sees that and then they sort of take it off on TV? Or is it, how do you make things happen?
It's by hook or by crook. You know what I mean? It's, you got to get creative. So, I mean, you can pick, we did have a couple, when I worked with when we were with the Vaudevillains, we are because writers kind of have rosters of talent. This writer has these 6 talent. This writer deals with these 7 talent. So our guy, he was great. His name was John, and he always had time for us, which I do appreciate. And not a lot went through, but there was 1 or 2 times where I remember, for example, it's a very small thing, but 2017, I believe, Elimination Chamber, There was a American Alpha was tag team champions. There was a gauntlet match or whatever. I think originally on that pay-per-view, there was not supposed to be a tag title match, or if it was a very simple straight up tag match, like on the kickoff. But we have been having so much fun with like these 8-man tags and stuff on house shows that we were kind of like, let's get everybody on this pay-per-view. Like people like the Ascension, people like Heath and Rhino. And I'm like, I think they deserve a shot. Let's do something. I mean, we tried to do a tag chamber, and that year they didn't want to do one, but we're like, let's do this match. Let's do a gauntlet match. And the gauntlet match went through. So sometimes the straight up, writers to producers, it does work. It's few and far between. Sometimes it's like you said, you get something on social media that gets a spike. And then sometimes you can go to like the .com people who film like the little interviews you see backstage that aren't always on TV, but they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on .com, they're on YouTube. They're actually they get kind of not creative freedom, but it's not seen as like prime time. So they kind of do get like leeway to be like, if I go up to them like, hey, can I film this promo like after my match where I'm like freaking out because I'm pissed off that I lost or something like that? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's shoot it. And then they'll put it up on .com that night. And so sometimes little things like that will take off because you never know, like some of that YouTube stuff, some of that .com stuff, we feel like here in America, like it's like, yeah, nobody really pays attention to it compared to like television. But sometimes in like these like foreign countries where they don't get Raw, or like they have a Raw replay at 3 a.m. on Saturdays is their Raw, like somewhere in Asia or something like that, in Africa. But they get all their stuff from YouTube. Mm-hmm. So if they're scrolling through the WWE YouTube or to catch Raw highlights, and then they see an interview with Aiden English where he's throwing his scarf everywhere, you might get more eyes on that internationally and stuff like that. So there's a lot of you got to get creative. That was a long-winded answer to just be like, you got to get scrappy and get creative.
Why do you think they have lots of teams of writers? Because we hear about the old days in the 90s where Vince would sit around the pool with Pat and Jim Ross and Jim Cornette and whoever else. Why is that grown into so many different teams of writers, do you think?
I don't know. That's probably just with the changing nature of the business. I mean, the company has gotten so much bigger than it was then, and there are so many more arms to the company. So Vince McMahon, I mean, he's still a CEO of the company. So he's now, back then, he was trying to make the best damn wrestling show on the planet. And I mean, they were doing things like making merch and running house tours and house shows, but it was like, they were just a really big wrestling company. But now, since then, we've gone public. We have, there's the network. There's huge charitable organization things. We're doing like more with video games, more with all the business has just branched out into so many things. So there's so much more to think about and worry about, and all with it being publicly traded. So I think it's like, to kind of put a cliche out there, they had to kind of go Hollywood. We need teams to help us delegate some of this stuff, because Vince does not have time to sit around the pool with 2 producers and write Raw every week. It's a full on Hollywood production 3 times a week. You know what I mean? Four times with a pay-per-view. So as everything got bigger, you needed more people to help delegate the work.
And so just on our YouTube channel, just to see what the process actually was, I did a video where I actually applied to be a writer for WWE. And at no point did they ask, do you like wrestling?
Nope.
Do you think that's a bit of an issue?
Yes and no, because, and I get it from there. At the end of the day, again, you're a big company. I say wrestling fans are there. They will wane in it and they'll complain when it's bad, but more often than not, they want to complain again next week. Yeah. So they're there. Wrestling fans are in your bubble. You've got those. Those people will be there 90% of the time. Even when you piss them off, they'll go away for a couple of weeks. They'll come back. You've got them in the bubble. We're trying to get these people. So sometimes you need voices who can come in from comic books, from Hollywood. Now, we don't want to turn it into straight up like sitcom soap opera. We know it's still our world of wrestling. But if somebody can come in and be like, because sometimes you can get in the bubble of wrestling, and even fans can do that, where it's like, well, why aren't they doing this? And I'm like, because we've done that every week for 30 years. Like, we need to do something different. What is Game of Thrones doing? What is The Office doing? I know some wrestling fans don't like to hear that stuff sometimes, but a fresh perspective, like, hey, we don't really see this in the wrestling world, even though people love it in movies and everything. Can we bring an aspect of that here, and maybe it can appeal to a wider audience and stuff like that? So Well, I get you. Sometimes it's good to have an outside kind of experience.
And just one more thing in terms of creative process. You obviously went through the transition from NXT to the main roster. And while it maybe doesn't apply to you, a lot of times the main roster version of the NXT character, it loses what made them special in NXT. You sort of stayed similar when you got to the main roster, but a lot of times a big portion is lost. Why do you think that is? It just because obviously NXT is obviously a lot bigger now than maybe even when you were there, I guess, because obviously on USA Network now and stuff like that. But why is there bits like such the Viking Raiders obviously spring to my mind straight away, just changing their name completely? Why is that? What, in your opinion, why do you think that sort of disconnects there between NXT and the main roster?
It's hard. And I would even argue, even for us, for the Vaudevillains, our characters, yes, technically stayed the same, but they're like our story didn't get told the way it got told in NXT.
Right.
Our presentation didn't get really the same treatment it got in NXT. It wasn't. So that does happen a lot, and it's harder with. I think it's easier now because my generation of NXT was born out of this kind of a funky, weird time, that 2015, 2014 time, when on top of your badass matches with like Sami Zayn and Cesaro and Neville and everything like that, we were trying these not goofy, that's not a right word, but funky characters. We were trying, the colorful characters were kind of bad, almost from the 80s, 90s. We were trying them in NXT. Your CJ Parkers, your Vaudevillains, Lucha Dragons, the Ascension, even Bo Dallas was so goofy. Bo Leave and everything like that was so much fun, and they was colorful and different. And that audience, and maybe because it was so small and intimate there at Full Sail, and it was the same people every week, every month. It was this cult kind of atmosphere, and they loved it. The weirder, the better for them, right? Like, what? I remember when we came out, like, what the hell are these guys? These time traveling goofs? Like, what's going on? But they were like, yes, these are and so you get to the main roster, and you're not on the network and in front of an audience of 500 at Full Sail. You're in a much wider audience. I also do think that the boss man and some of the creative up there don't understand everybody in NXT, and they just go into, for us, we needed vignettes. We needed stuff like it. Enzo comes out, does soft, all this stuff. They already had a good run in NXT anyway, but he comes out, gets to do that for 5 minutes. Yeah, every week. Hell yeah, they're gonna get over, because that's funny, it's entertaining, and you're getting an idea of who they are. We come out with a 30-second black and white entrance, and then you just have us I remember the New Day feud when we finally were set to face them for the tag titles the first time, and we had a couple weeks to build it, and they did. The only thing they did that was remotely character-based was when New Day came out of the time machine, making fun of the black and white stuff, and we jumped them. But I know what New Day are funny, but that they did the character stuff, and then we just came out like any generic heel ever and slid into the ring and beat him up and smashed him and stuff. What? Sorry, this is getting me worked up. Because they didn't understand, because me and Woods would sit and talk about, let's do this. Let's do the old, you tie me up on the train tracks, like an old Western movie. And we're like, hey, similarly, we tie Woods up on the train track. Or they were doing the bootios. Let's steal the bootio. And let's hold it hostage. And we'll do vignettes backstage where we're taping the mouth of the bootio shut. And Woods is like, no, all this hilarious, entertaining stuff. And then we can still get to the match, and we can have a badass match. And, but all back and forth week after week, but nope, we cut promos saying, and again, we were new, so we couldn't really change them at that time, was, we're going to beat you because we're manly. And then again, we jumped them 2-3 times, just run out there, hit him with your finish. Yeah. Really get aggressive. That was going to get aggressive and beat him up. And it's okay, nobody cares that we're doing that because they don't know who we are. We're these two weird looking guys beating up the New Day. So that's when you have character. And nowadays they do have more, they're swinging back to real life kind of characters, your Undisputed Eras, your Johnny Garganos, Tommaso. They're still very interesting, but they're much more straight laced and real and kind of raw. So it's a little bit easier to translate that. But man, at that time, when you had those unique, NXT personalities, you needed to flush those out some more. And I think they were just kind of going by the formula of, well, bring them up there, get them some heat, and it'll be fine. And it doesn't work for things like that.
Just quickly, you mentioned Gargano and Ciampa. They transitioned to the main roster, having had a 2-year blood feud where they just killed each other basically for 2 years in NXT. Turned up on the main roster. They were tag teaming together. Just that disconnect from everybody, whether it be a more flamboyant gimmick like yours back in the day, or those two straight-laced, just wrestlers basically. It's a massive disconnect that doesn't make any sense from the outside perspective, at least anyway.
Yeah, and it's at that time it was NXT's hot, right? NXT's everybody's talking about. Let's get some of those guys up here. Give me some of those top guys. Give me and it's like bring those here. It's like, and nobody's gonna sit like, they hate each other. Yeah. Give me the 4 biggest stars. You know what I mean? Because people will love to see them on Raw.
Yeah, maybe. It just made no sense. Anyway, is that 2 things we've done? That's a long second point. Was it the third one? Chelsea Green appeared on Straight to Hell earlier this year, and she told me about the creative thing she pitched to WWE off her own back. Yes, you probably saw that on social media. That came from me, that. I got the scoops. But she also sent spray tan straight down to hell, and while her reasoning does make sense, the fact that a professional wrestler would send spray tan straight down to hell, to me at least, would be like a fish sending water straight down to hell. That makes sense in my head. I hope it does for you too.
Ooh, I mean, I wish that I could send spray tan straight down to hell, but it looks so good. But I wish I could, because I hate having to get spray tans.
Is this in terms of when there may be, I don't know how it works in the wrestling ring? Do they rub off on each other? I don't know how it works.
No, but okay, here's the thing. With all the lights, it washes you out so much. So you have to get a spray tan in order to not look like ghostly. So we all get spray tans, and they smell, they get my towels dirty, my sheets dirty. I look dirty. God forbid the spray tan doesn't go properly on my hands or my feet. Twitter will come for me then. So I just want spray tans to go straight to hell.
It's not the most practical thing for a wrestler either when you're sweating, because we've seen that, I think it was MJF on Impact, on AEW, a couple of weeks ago, sort of the little beads that happen. And
yeah. Haven't you ever looked at my fiance's Instagram account? It was just dripping the other day down his arm. I'm like, that is disgusting. And
you can't avoid it, can you? Surely.
Oh, no, you can't. I mean, I'm like a sweaty person. Luckily, my spray tan has never dripped like that. But I mean, now that I've said it, it probably will.
And speaking of going back to your gimmicks from earlier on, maybe a female Sheamus is the way to go here, just to avoid the spray tan.
Well, I think Paige and Sheamus had it right. I really think that they did. I agree with that.
And why do you think? Is it literally just because maybe tan skin looks better than fleshy white skin?
It's purely just because a spray tan brings out your muscles for one. That's just a fact. We all know that because we're in this business. And the lights, you just need some sort of color. You don't have to be the most tanned person ever, but you just need a little bit of a spray tan just to make yourself look alive, which is so crazy. Yeah. But those lights are just really harsh out there.
So there we go. Spray tans are straight down to hell. Tama Tonga appeared on Straight to Hell and outlined what it takes for a professional wrestler who resides in the west of the world but wants to do the professional wrestling in the far east of the world. He outlined what that professional wrestler needs to go through to get to the other part of the world. And if this journey is not outrageous, well, I don't know what is. Wrap your chops around this meaty clacker.
First one straight to hell is a long ass 24-hour travel day to Japan, man. You can throw that shit straight to hell, bro.
How often are you doing that these days?
Let's see. I just got back 2 days ago from Japan. That was a 24-hour travel day, and then I leave tomorrow back to Japan, and that's another 24-hour travel day. So I was home here for 3 days. That's 2 24-hour travel days, and I'm gonna go back to Japan for 1 week, and then I come right back. That's a third one. So this month, I'm doing that about 4 times this month.
So break down that day. What time does it start? And like each segment of the day, how does it go?
Oh, shit. All right. So so I'll explain how 2 days ago, I woke up at 5 in the morning, got picked up at 6 in the morning, went to the airport. My flight from Osaka to Tokyo was from like 8, and I got there at 9:30 in the morning, and then I waited from 9:30 in the morning in Tokyo till 4:30 to board my plane to Atlanta. So that was a 13-hour flight from Tokyo to Atlanta, and then Atlanta, I waited in Atlanta 4 hours till I caught my flight finally home, and I got home at 9 at night.
That is absolutely brutal.
Bro, holy shit. And I've been doing this for 10 years here in Japan.
I was going to say...
You can do it where you can throw that shit to hell, man.
You never thought of getting a more like permanent residence in Japan?
We, thought about it. I spoke to my wife about it, and that was probably the plan about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and but then we ended up having our son, and now on our second child, on our daughter coming in a couple months. So that just kind of like, no, we got to stay close to home here with her family so they can help her with the kids while I'm on the road.
I've always wondered, how do you find being sort of like, a Westerner in Japan? How do you find the sort of life when you're over there? Is it quite hard to fit in, or is it just like easy? It's easy because they're so polite and so easy that Richard tell you, I mean, everything is nice, is clean, they have a certain way of doing things, and that's easy for me to follow. They're very good with foreigners. I love it. I love it. That's one of my main reasons of staying in Japan this my whole career so far is because it's easy. It's very easy for me and very I guess I love it. There you go. I was going to say, Richard, our editor, is actually going to go over there for a whole year. You got any tips?
Oh,
yeah, he's moving. Yeah. He's leaving us here. He's going over there.
Oh, shoot. Go, Richard, man. Hey, that's good, man. 1 year. Shoot. If I didn't tell you tips the first time I seen you, Richard, you'll be fine, man.
Fair enough. But yeah, God, I can't imagine what that would be like. How do you sort of make it easier? The sort of daunting prospect that is a 24-hour day. Like, what do you do to sort of make it a bit more palatable?
So I have a little routine. There's a sushi spot at the airport in Tokyo that Carl Anderson and Giant Bernard, or he ended up being Tenzai in WWE. They kind of like passed on the ritual to me as they left, and I get there, I gotta go sit down at the sushi spot. I sit there, have my eat. I'll go up to the Delta Lounge, have a few brewskis maybe, that just kind of warm me up for the flight. And I mean, that's pretty much it, That's pretty much it. And once you get on the plane, you're trying to sleep the whole time, just to make the time go faster.
Well, there we have it. Flights, 24-hour days have gone to hell. That's where they probably belong. The Dave Meltzer episode of Straight to Hell is personally my least favourite episode of Straight to Hell because, in my opinion, I crapped the bed while I was in the presence of wrestling media god. If I could do the interview again, I would love to, because I'm way better now. Anyway, David Meltzer told an outrageous tale, and it belongs on this countdown of the most outrageous things sent to Straight to Hell. WWE, what the hell are you doing, man? Okay, so for Dave's second offering, I'm going to sit back and be quiet and just let the man himself talk you through it, because I can't, quite frankly. So what's your second offering?
Okay, so this is about independent contractor, and this is more for WWE. I mean, the wrestlers are considered independent contractors. And independent contractors in the United States, and I mean that basically means that you're independent to do whatever you want to do, but you can't work for anybody else, and you are you're told too much. To me, it's like if you're truly independent, you show up for work and then you do it the way you want to do it, and you work for who you want to work for. And a lot of the there's some independent. There are independent wrestlers. But most of the wrestlers, most of the main wrestlers in the United States, they're under contract and it's exclusive. So to me, that's not independent. And at that point, if you're an employee, you should be treated like an employee. The idea that a company, with WWE, this is picking on WWE now, but because they're the big monster, but a company that's grossing $800 million a year, and then the guys are paying for their own hotels. So to me, that's kind of like, I mean, that's one thing when it was mom and pop wrestling way back when, or you're not making a guaranteed contract. You're making, you're doing it based on the house. When, I mean, that was well and good
back in the old days. But now when all the money's coming from TV, if you're going to get a percentage, the percentage should be from the TV because that's the real money.
Yeah.
And if you're only getting a percentage of the house shows, that's a small portion of the WWE revenue these days.
What's the deal with health insurance these days as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, WWE does take care of their injuries, but
once they happen, though, is that
Yeah, but you don't have health insurance or anything like that. You have to get your own, and that's another thing is like, you know, if you're an employee, you should be able to. The employees in Stanford, they have health insurance. So shouldn't the wrestlers who are driving all this money and being the celebrities on board, they're the ones who actually don't have it.
The people who sit behind desks have health insurance, but the people who
they have really good. They have really good coverage in the people who sit behind the desks, but the people who are out there falling on their backs, on their heads, it's like, well, if you get hurt, we'll pay for the injury. But it should be more than that. You should be able to, have health insurance for the family. It's one thing before when you look and you just go, well, we can't afford it. But with WWE, you can't say you can't afford it anymore to anything. Past if you want to offer a guy $50 million a year, they can say, hey, we can't afford that. That's legit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like things like this, they can afford anything.
I don't know what to say about the health insurance thing. That just took me, but that is so backwards.
Well, think about not just health insurance, but you pay for your own rent-a-car when you're on the road, and you're on the road constantly.
Yeah.
And how do you get from city to city? You got to rent a car because you're not in your where you live, and your hotel. It's like your food on the road. If you were in like working for a major television show or something, or just going. If you're on your job and they send you to another city, I mean, they're going to pay for your rent-a-car. So it's like. It's like a throwback to the old days. This is how it used to be done. But it's like there's no reason for that anymore. There's too much money being driven by this business.
Is that the only reason? Just that's the way it's done?
I think it's just because, well, this is how it's been done. Which is funny because they've changed so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's like this is how you get paid. You get paid on a percentage of the house. Well, that was great when it was 100% house show business. It's house shows are a minor part of the business now.
I've got no comeback for you.
Yeah, okay.
Compelling argument made. It's in hell.
Yeah.
Independent contractor status. Gone.
AEW's Anthony Ogogo gave us one of the best episodes of Straight to Hell in the history of the series because, this episode came a long time before his debut for AEW, so I assume a lot of people didn't really know who or what he was about. But his passion, his enthusiasm, just his love for professional wrestling, it came through the screen at you and gave us one hell of an episode. But during that episode, one thing I did not expect to hear was such slander, such detest, such contempt for the Green Machine Tory. Aye, you heard us.
So, Anthony, your first offering, please.
So my first one, right? And it's personal to me. It's very personal, this one. So the first, and it's a person I want to send straight to hell is the Green Machine Tory back in the Attitude Era. And there's reasons, right? There's reasons. So not Tori Wilson, she was good. The Green Machine Tory. So, as I said earlier, as a kid, we didn't have a great deal of money, right? So we just got 4 channels. We didn't even get Channel 5 where we were. We got 4 channels. And Channel 4, they had the rights to Sunday Night Heat for a couple of years. So
until Mae Young got a top off and then it took it off, I was devastated. Yeah. I didn't have Sky until 2004 myself, so I was devastated as well.
I had that on record. The tape played the VHS and there, seeing Mae Young's puppies. That was big stuff back in the day. Big stuff. But so my wrestling content was so tiny because we had one hour segment of 1 hour show of Sunday Night Heat. So I used to get my wrestling information from one of the cooler lads. I was in year 6. One of the year 7s whose parents were obviously a bit cooler, and they let them stay up late and watch the wrestling. I remember every Tuesday after Monday Night War, he'd come in. We'd be sitting at the school lunchtime. Oh, what happened? He went to me. I said, Tori, she's dumped Kane. I've gone, no, I'm 9, 10 years old. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean dump Kane? I love Kane. Yeah, and guess what? Now she's going to have an X-Pac. It's like, no, they were friends. And I just can't believe. And true story. So I've gone into after this at lunchtime. So I've gone back into school for science, or whatever. I'm in a really bad mood because I've just found out that Tori has dumped Kane, now going to have X-Pac. So I had a young teacher told me to do whatever. I told her to shut up. obviously very, very bad. I got sent to the headmaster's office, and he went, well, why are you here? I said, because Tori's dumped Kane, that's going to X-Pac, and I got detention. So Tori, the Green Machine Tori, got me detention in year 6, and that's unforgivable. So I want to send her straight to hell.
Now, of course, I'm just going to play devil's advocate, but I was reading up about this storyline not too long ago, and I read that Kane had a WWF Championship match against The Big Show, but if he lost that, his girlfriend Tori had to spend a Christmas weekend with X-Pac, and because X-Pac was such a gentleman and treated her so well, she fell in love with him, and that's why she's left Kane. So I'm just going to play devil's advocate. X-Pac's a gentleman. Well, he might not be in his real life back in that time, but he was on screen.
Well, as I said, I didn't get to see that because I didn't have Sky Sports, so I wasn't able to watch it. So I don't know about that. I just know that poor Kane, right? Poor Kane. He's had a horrible upbringing. He's emotionally scarred. He must have issues of trust. And he's let this whole harlot, this vixen, into his life. They've got close, and she's done her dirty on it. That's not cool, man. That's everything that's wrong with society nowadays.
That's where it started. That's where it all went wrong. So what did you make? Because I put Kane as my favourite from when I was a kid, because I was just horribly scared of him. I couldn't, like 1997 to like 2000 Kane, 2001 Kane, I was terrified. But I didn't like Kane being humanised by Tori and going, oh, he's got feelings. I'm like, he's in a mask, he wants to kill folk. That's what I want to see from Kane, even though I was scared. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I was like 9. I didn't really understand it. I liked him because he was a big tough bugger and knocked people out in the uppercut and the choke slam. That's a fridge magnet. My Panama fridge magnet's just gone.
Fancy.
So that was, yeah, do you know what? I mean, I just liked him, and I didn't like how he was made to feel upset by Tori. So my allegiance lie with Kane, they'll always lie with Kane, and I want to send it to hell. I don't know what else to say on that.
That's fair enough. You've put a compelling case forward. Obviously, my reasons, I've got my own reasons because of Kane being humanised and whatnot. Me buzzer's under repairs this month, so if I can't hit the buzzer, but I'm going to hit a metaphorical buzzer. The Green Machine Tori is straight to hell. And so we come to the end of this countdown in no particular order, by the way, of the most outrageous things sent straight to hell in the history of Straight to Hell. Now, I love Colt Cabana, right? But I don't think I love Colt Cabana as much as Colt Cabana loves... Steady yourselves now. Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Whoever pretended that Brutus Beefcake wasn't Brutus the Barber Beefcake after Brutus Beefcake.
So explain this to the people at home. What was going on there?
He had like 25 gimmicks. And I don't want to age myself, but this is when I was watching wrestling. You know, he went for Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who I don't care what Conrad Thompson says or whatever, or whoever it is, Bruce Pritchard. He was over, and he was part of my childhood, and I enjoyed him. And I think everyone enjoyed him. And he wasn't just Hulk Hogan's friend. He was freaking cool. You know, he was the barber. He was cutting and strutting, and he was over. And then he went to WCW, and then he was just the Booty Man and Zodiac and whatever. Just, he's Brutus Beefcake. He's Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Stop it. Go. You can go to hell. He's one person.
For a long time, when he was, what was he called in the NWO when he had the beard and the longer hair? Because I had no idea that was him.
The Apocalypse or something like that?
Something like that. I had no idea that was Brutus the Barber Beefcake until a long way down the line. So he did do well to sort of reinvent himself time and time again.
Did he do well?
Oh, well.
You don't even remember his name.
Infamously well.
Yeah, he did well to collect a paycheck and put his kid through college, I'm sure.
It was weird how he kept following Hulk Hogan though around though, wasn't it? I know you were saying he was more than just Hulk Hogan's friend, but towards the end there, he did follow around Hulk Hogan a bit too much.
Yeah. So you know what, Hogan, you could go to hell too. For not, well, we can go to Hogan can go to hell for a bunch of other reasons,
but most importantly for what's the word I'm looking for? For tarnishing the reputation.
Yeah, not buying the trademark of Brutus the Barber Beefcake so he can use it everywhere. Come on.
Why don't you bring back Brutus the Barber Beefcake in AEW?
I mean, we brought Greg the Hammer Valentine. I don't know if you saw that, where he sat in the crowd for 0.5 seconds during Cody and Brody's match.
A lovely smelling man, by the way. At StarCast a couple of years ago, I was behind him in the queue at the breakfast bar. What a lovely smelling man.
Listen, we all know we've all seen like Valentine is almost like Virgil, where he just sits at his table at these conventions with no expression. And we all kind of have these preconceiving notions of Greg the Hammer Valentine. But I did a live Art of Wrestling from Miami, and he was one of my guests because he was at this convention and they just wanted me to use whoever was at the convention. I think Jim Duggan was on the show, and also Shane Douglas was on the show, but Greg Valentine was on the show too. And when he had a mic in front of him, in front of a live crowd, telling stories and making jokes, he was amazing and funny and on and very like dry wit. I was a little blown away, and from that day forward, I gave more and more credit to Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Yeah, it's weird that because when you see him in pictures and whatnot, he just looks like the Hammer all the time, like sort of, "Ooh, I'm the Hammer" and all that stuff. But it's nice to hear he's got that other side of him.
I'm sorry, Ross. Can you do that impression of Greg the Hammer Valentine once again, please?
I'm the Hammer.
There it is. Nailed it.
What was the seal? What could have been with Brutus the Barber Beefcake though? If you were in charge of WWF way back in the day, where was he going? What was he doing?
Everyone has their run. I can't say that. You know, you have your run and you go away. And unless you're the Miz, you know, you're sticking around. But otherwise, it is what it is. So I don't know what to tell. I'm not gonna backseat book Brutus Beefcake's 1993 run against the Repo Man. I wish I could. It'd make for a great podcast. Maybe, you know what? Let's do it on Cultaholic. Colt Cabana backseat books Beefcake's 1990s run.
20-part series is coming to Cultaholic Wrestling soon. So there we go. The sort of tarnishing the reputation of Brutus the Barber Beefcake can go straight down to hell.
So that was it. In no particular order, that was the 10 most outrageous things sent to hell in the history of Straight to Hell. Have you remembered a thing that was sent straight to hell that I have forgotten about? Well, if you have, please let me know in the comments down below. And also in those comments down below, let me know who you want to see on Straight to Hell in 2022, and I'll try me hardest to make it happen. I can't promise anything. Getting guests is really hard. Thank you for watching. Merry Christmas or whatever you're celebrating, and I'll see you next year.